Hello, welcome back to the channel for a very interesting tutorial on how to use n8n to build AI agents that will automate transportation planning. So my name is Samir. I'm supply chain data scientist and founder of the startup LogicGreen. In this YouTube channel, I have shared multiple examples of analytics products for warehousing, manufacturing, and transportation optimization. Here today, the focus will be on transportation planning. And the idea is to use n8n to build AI agents that will automate some complex planning tasks. The targets for this kind of automation is small and medium transportation companies that have multiple customers and maybe not always connected by systems to these customers that receive requests by emails and that would need support to automate part of the planning and the scheduling. For that, I'm going to introduce 4 different templates that are freely available in my supply chain analytics cheat sheet. You will find the link in the description. You go here on the n8n templates section, and then you will have all the different automation that I am sharing. But before going in the results, I would like to introduce you step by step what is transportation planning, what kind of parameters we need, and how we can use the Open Route Service API, which is free for a couple of thousands of requests, to build interesting products that would help a lot of small companies. Most of the transportation companies are very small, maybe like from 1 trucks to maybe like 10, 15 trucks. And there are potential customers that probably would need the type of automation that we want to create. So before starting, let me just introduce you the different products and the different workflows that I'm going to present in this tutorial. So we start with the basics of geocoding. So geocoding is basically transcribing an address to a GPS coordinate, which is key for us to perform any optimization. And I have a template for that. Then using these GPS coordinates, we will be able to calculate driving time and driving distance. And then with all these informations, we are going to be able to plan transportation. And here we are going to take actual examples of transportation requests that your customer may receive and see how we can build automation to automatically answer this request and record the information. And then I will finish with a complex transportation scheduling that involves collecting products from multiple stores and see how we can use a specific algorithm that is included in the API to automatically schedule this type of complex pickups and automatically answer the customers with a detailed plan. So let's go and start first with geocoding. So let's start first with geocoding. If you are not familiar with the logistics industry, you can imagine that if you want to perform network design on transportation optimization, you need GPS coordinates to calculate distances, driving time, perform some barycentric study. But don't expect the customer to provide you the GPS coordinates. For most of the time, their data is incomplete, and if they can give you the addresses, it's already good. So for the best case, you will have an address, and you need to transform that into GPS coordinates. And that's what we call geocoding. And hopefully we have the Open Route Service API to do that. So let's imagine, okay, I will go to Google Sheet, right? Let's imagine, I will delete that. Let's imagine that you have a collection of different locations that could be pickup or that could be delivery. And you need to have their GPS coordinates. So you can prepare them in this Google Sheet like the way I did. I have put the country code and I have put the address. And then the idea is to use the Open Route Service API to provide the GPS coordinates, longitude and latitude, but also some additional information. It's like the neighborhood, some local info, like the city name, and here the borough, which I guess, at least for Paris, it's is a district of the address. So, and for that, I have built a n8n workflow to do that automatically. So I will link the workflow in the description, and inside the workflow you have all the instructions to run it for yourself. So let me launch it. But now I will go in details on how it's working. So first, it's like a normal trigger. You can put any trigger you want here just for the test. The first step is to collect some information. And here we are going to collect by the different addresses and country code. And then what we do is for each address, so for each row of the Google Sheet, we are going to launch the Open Route Service API to collect the GPS coordinates and all the different fields that I showed in the Google Sheet. And then we are going to extract what is interesting for us. So, for instance, here we don't have the borough, it's okay, but the neighborhood and the city. And then we are going to save that in the Google Sheet. So maybe let me show you in details what we do in the API. So we sent a GET request to the Open Route Service API. We connect to this endpoint. What we send in the query parameter is the API key. So here, this is a free API key that you can get easily from the Open Route Service API. We provide the address. So here's an address in Milano. And then the country code that is available in the Google Sheet. Here, I select the type of API that we are using. So here I'm using OpenStreetMap, which is not bad in Europe. And here the size is the number of locations that you want to collect. And for the rest, I think you don't have anything to change. These are parts of the query. And what do we have in terms of results? So first, in the geocoding, we have some information of the type of location that has been found by the API. But here, I don't think we're going to take that. Here, what is interesting for us is the coordinates. So here, the coordinates can be found here. And then here we have some information about which type of service that we have used. We have even visibility on the region, but that we don't want to take here. But yeah, what is interesting for us is the coordinates, and we are going to take what I showed lately. It's like the neighborhood, the district, and the country. Now, so this template is available for you. If you want to use it for yourself, what you need to do is to put your credentials here to access to the Google Sheet. You need to point to the right sheet. In the sheet, you need to have these columns ready. And that's what we have here. And then you need to fill the ID, which is better. I use the ID for another workflow, but I always advise you to add an ID and the country code and the address. And then it's ready to be used. And you can do now geocoding. And we can move then to the driving distance and driving time. Now that we have the GPS coordinates, we can play with them. So in some videos and articles of my blog, you can find examples where I do barocentric studies or I plot the different locations in maps to show the routes. But today, I mean, at least in this tutorial, we are going to use the Open Route Service API to calculate actual driving time and driving distance. So what do we mean by driving time and driving distance? Is the ones that are on the road. So let's imagine that we have these different routes. So you are still working for a transportation company that have multiple routes. And for each of these routes, you have a departure and you have a destinations. Here, I took the granularity of a city. These are all cities in France, where the GPS coordinates are already provided, and they are provided probably with a workflow that we have explored before. And what we want to do is to calculate the driving distance and the driving time, considering that we have a heavy truck and the number of steps. Here, the steps is when you are driving from a point A to point B, you are going to change routes. You are going to go from a national route to a departmental route. And these are what we call steps, at least for the Open Route Service API. So let's use that as an example. And let me show you with the workflow how we can fill this Google Sheet. So like the same before, we collect all the different routes from the Google Sheet. And then we have a loop for each route. So here for each row of the Google Sheet, we send a GET request to the Open Route Service API. We collect the distance. So the distance here will be in meters, the duration and the number of steps. And then we fill the Google Sheet. It's quite easy. It takes less than I think a minute here to launch the launch the workflow. The only thing that I did here is I put 5 seconds of waiting time between each row. We are using the free tier of the Open Route Service API, so let's respect the service itself and let's avoid being blocked by sending too many requests. But if you are using that in production, if you have paid the API key, I think you can remove that. For the rest, what do you need to set up the workflow using my templates is just to put your credentials, to point to the Open Route, to the Google Sheet where you would have these, so here I call that Open Route Service, these columns, and that would be the same sheet here. And then you need to set up the API keys. So let me show you that. So here, this is in the query parameters that you put your API key, and that's the API key that you can get by registering to the Open Route Service API. And then in terms of inputs, so here, at the start, we are taking the GPS coordinates of the departure from, let me show you the table here. So here, so longitude departure, latitude departure, for instance. We do the same for the end, and for the other parameters, you don't need to change anything. And the output, sorry, let me just go back here. From the output, we have a lot of informations, but what is key? So here, these are all the different steps. So when I say n steps, it's because I count the number of steps, but we don't care about the details here. I mean, when we are doing driving distance, when we are calculating driving distance, driving time, we don't care about the steps. But one thing that is interesting and important to not forget is here I'm using the driving HGV endpoint because we are working. This workflow will be used by a carrier like a transportation company, and we want to have the driving distance and the driving time of a large truck. Especially for some countries, there are some rules that are only for light trucks, light cars or individual cars. And so when you are using this option, you make sure that the route that is designed is based on the fact that you are considering that you are driving a large truck. But then when it's done, you have everything, and normally the results are here. Yeah. So here you have the distances in meters and the durations in seconds, I think, or in minutes, if I remember. Yeah, in seconds. But no, let me see what I did here. I put the road duration, so that probably in seconds. But yeah, and then you can use that for the next workflow that we are going to tackle. Now we can talk about AI agents. So it's probably the reason why you clicked on this video, but I wanted to maybe start with the basis. These AI agents will use multiple tools, and I wanted to introduce them. So let's imagine the scenario, okay? You are working for your customer is a transportation company focused on retail. So their customers are supermarkets, hypermarkets. They send them shipment requests where they say, okay, I have 10 pallets in my distribution center located in this area with this address, and I want to deliver this store that is located in this area with this address. And what you want to do is as soon as you receive a pickup request, that is by email, because if not, it would not be fun if it's not by email. Most of the time it's like this, and you have an admin that has to collect the information, to extract the information from the email, and then to fill the systems. And here we want to automate that so we can be more efficient in the processes. What you want to do is to have a system that would extract the information automatically and then call the Open Route Service API to enrich the information with GPS coordinates and driving distance and driving time, and then automatically send a reply. So for instance, here, this is one of the type of the request. So Leclerc is like a chain of supermarkets in France. You have here the pickup location is the distribution center. You need to take 12 pallets with temperature controlled chilled. So probably it's like yogurts or, I don't know, cheese. And then the destination is a specific store with the code. Of course, they don't give you the GPS coordinate. They only give you like an address and the expected delivery date. And then they ask you, let me know when the transportation is scheduled. So the reason here why I'm using the AI agents is when the information is recorded in the system with all the additional features that are needed, I want to send a confirmation to the customer, and I want to use natural language for that. So we'll use an AI agent. And here, this is the type of answer that we can provide with all the type of information and the driving distance with the driving time. So how to do that? But let's go to the workflow. Where is this workflow? This workflow is here. So maybe I will zoom a bit. So first, maybe how we start the workflow by sending an email. So I will send the email. This is the email that you saw in the screenshot, and I will send it to myself. So Logic Green Bot is the type of address. It's the address that we are using to experiment to build and to design and to test the workflows that we are building for our customers. So I send that, okay? Message is sent. So I can launch the workflow. So here you see you have some Google Sheets nodes. Why? It's because we are recording that here. So I will delete that. That way it's easy. So way we have like an actual scenario. And then I will launch the workflow. So the first step is this AI agent that will parse the email and collect all the information that are needed. So the information inside the body, but also some information related to the sender and the company. Sender name and sender company. That may be used later to answer, to reply to the email. And then the first step is just to record the email content. So here we are recording all these informations. I'm recording all these informations in the Google Sheets. That's just the information inside the body of the email. And then in this node, we are only collecting the addresses. So we filter by the shipment number. Let's imagine that this Google Sheet will be used in production with multiple requests. So we need to make sure that we take the shipment number that is coming from the output of the agent parser. And then, so we have the right line. And then this first node here is going to collect the GPS coordinates, the longitude, latitude, and all this information coming back from the previous workflow that we have discovered initially. So this is why I started with this one, because these are different building blocks that I'm using here. To collect longitude, latitude, and here we don't have borough or neighborhood, but we have the city, and save that. Then we have 5 seconds of waiting time just to not overload the API, and we do the same with the coordinates of the destination. So here we have the city, and now that we have everything, so longitude, latitude of the pickup location, longitude, latitude of the destination, we can call the driving distance API to get the driving distance, the driving time, and the number of steps, and we can save that in the Google Sheet. If I go in the Google Sheet, we have everything. Then if I go back to the workflow and I move down, we can collect these informations, right? Okay, so here we have everything, including driving time and the driving distance. And we can ask this AI agent to write an email. And this email is sent back to the same message ID of the email that we received from the customer. And if I go to my mailbox, or to the mailbox of the bot, the Logic Green bot, it's not working. Wait. Yes, it's working. Yeah, just requires a refresh. We are using the name of the contact, bit of advertisement of the logic in transportation. We don't have a transportation company, but okay, it's part of marketing. And we have all the information needed with the driving distance and driving time. And we have the information for us to be contacted in case of answers, of questions from their side. So yeah, and this workflow is using the blocks of the others workflows that I've introduced. If you want to set it up for yourself, of course, and this template is available. Here, you need to put your credentials for your Gmail address. Here, you need the credentials for these two AI models of OpenAI API. Here, in the first agent, you have the user prompt. You don't need to change anything. It will take the subject and the body from the Gmail node. Here, in the system prompt, you can add, of course, some additional information about the tone and everything. But for the extraction here, there is nothing to do because this node will not answer to the customer. It will, so yeah, there is nothing, no reason to talk about the tone. I don't know why I talked about the tone. Here is, you don't need to change anything except if you add additional information in the email. So if you expect the customer to put, the reason, some additional information that are not in the inside of the email, this is where you need to change. And of course, if you change something in the system prompt, don't forget to change here in the structure output parser. So this part on this node is to inform the AI agents what type of format you want for the output. And here is just providing an example. So of course, here, you need to make sure that if you do some changes in the system prompt, they need to be reflected here. So if you remove or add a field, it needs to be here. So the output is nice. That's exactly what we need. And then, yeah, so for the APIs, it's pretty easy for the APIs. So it's exactly like the same fields that you need to fill for the two first workflows that I have introduced. So here you take the address from the pickup address, because here this is the node for the pickup. You need to put your API key. Here, the country code is of FR because we are in France. So probably this is something where you need to change based on where you are going to use. And for the rest, you don't need to change anything. Same for the destination, your API key, the destination address, and the country code. For the driving time and driving distance, your API keys here is going to automatically take the longitude and latitude generated by the two previous nodes. Same for the destination, and you don't need to change anything else. For the Google Sheets, you need to prepare a Google Sheet with all these columns. And yeah, and for the last node, this is where you need to put the tone. So for the system prompt, for the user prompt, sorry, you just provide the outputs here with the driving time and the driving distance. So here, in case that you add some additional fields in the workflow, they need to be added here if you want to show them in the emails. If in the reply you don't want to show, I don't know, like the driving distance, just remove it from here. And in the system prompt, this is where probably you can put some information about the tone that you want or additional information that you want to ask the users. And it will depend on the type of communication. Here, it's basically like JSON output that is translated to English. There is no additional request or questions or clarification. So it's quite simple as an answer. I took the initiatives of asking the agents to generate HTML. So in terms of formatting, it's better. And what you need to change here is all the information about your name, the position, the company, because here this is the fictional company, Logic Green Transportation. And of course, you want to adapt that to your own company. There is no output parser because here we only want to output like free text that is in HTML format. And here you put your credentials for your Gmail. And what is important here, you don't change anything, but here it's pointing to the message ID that is linked to the message, to the ID linked to the message that we have received initially. So that way stays is the same discussion. And here, everything is done. Your template is ready to be used. You can now automatically have an automated transportation scheduler with additional information like transportation time and transportation duration. I hope the explanations were clear enough. Inside my supply chain cheat sheet, you will find another workflow for which it will be more related to what we call multi-stop optimization, where instead of only calculating driving time and driving distance between 2 points, you are asking the API to build the route to connect multiple pickup locations to optimize the total driving time and driving distance. And I let you explore that in the template to not make the video too long. But I hope things were clear enough to understand how you can use the Open Route Service API to optimize transportation planning, but also to automate transportation planning and scheduling and provide interesting automations for transportation companies that now are struggling with the pressure for cost increase and lack of automation in their very manual process. Especially, I'm talking about the small and medium companies. If you have any questions, feel free to use the comment section and see you for the next tutorial.